It really wasn't intentional for the car to end up matching the trim on the house, but it worked out that way. Now, the woodpecker on the license plate was intentional. I mean, and it's supposed to be a red-headed one, and the car is kind of a burnt orange, but close enough. It looks good. Now, I've trimmed the red barberry this year, but it's grown back pretty hardy. And it's got some of the red mulch in it too now, just to make it match the new beds that I've put in. Now, these old plants didn't used to have any kind of landscaping around them. They were just, stuck in the ground. And so I built the little beds around them and filled them in with the mulch, and that kind of tied them in with the rest of the new stuff. Big planter in the middle of the yard. It got some mulch also just to make it match everything. And the Rose of Sharons on this end of the house are finally starting to bloom. They needed to have a whole new edge put around them. The old boards had rotted, so I went ahead and widened that a little bit, mulched it out, and again just tied it in with the old stuff. And now everything's kind of looking the same. I was given a whole bag of these daylilies to plant, and I stuck them in the ground, and they just looked like they had died. But I was weeding the other day, and they'd all perked up and sprouted some new growth, so who knows, maybe I'll have some lilies here eventually. We planted a new apple tree this spring, and yesterday I went ahead and chopped out the weeds and put some timbers around it, but I'm out of mulch, so it's going to have to wait for that. These are some of the old beds. Got some various euonymus plants in there, and there used to be an apricot tree there that died last year during the frost, so need something new there. And here's another variegated euonymus. It's kind of a green and white one, and another variegated euonymus, and this one's kind of green and yellow. I had a couple of leftover cherry bushes from the front yard, so I stuck them in planters back here and just went ahead and mulched them to make them look like everything else. And this is some of the new stuff that I've done in the backyard. That lilac bush has been here for over 20 years. It was planted there long before I ever lived here. And I just finally went ahead and tidied up around it and made it look like it was supposed to be there and was actually planned. The fence is the one that my son and I built this year, and we've got another bed there that's absolutely empty, just waiting, trying to decide what is going to end up in there. And our fence kind of took a detour here because this white ash tree had decided to grow right on the property line, and instead of cutting it down or anything like that, I just set a couple more posts and brought the fence in 2 feet and went around it. So this is the planter we put together on the 4th of July. It was just a bunch of simple straight cuts, so it went together pretty easy. Hammer in some spikes, shovel in some dirt, shovel in some mulch. And the 2 lower side beds, those are both going to have some cranberry bushes in them, but those won't ship until about September. And if I can find an Arkansas black dwarf apple tree, it's going to go in the big square. Now, you can't really appreciate this planter in the corner unless you see the huge pile of dirt that I had to move out of there in order to put that thing in there. And then there was all kinds of leveling and measuring and corner cuts and all kinds of things. I think I was on this thing for a couple of weeks. It didn't go fast. Right next to it, this is a sugar maple tree, and it's an accident. It got planted in the ground, and I was supposed to move it before it got big, and I didn't. And so I had to kind of build the bed around it to make it look like I actually planned for it to be there, and hopefully that worked out. I've got a few more of those Lenten roses in here, but clearly I've got the whole middle row has nothing in it. The big back space is waiting for some sort of 6 to 8 foot plant, and then I can do say a 4 foot plant and then a 2 foot plant down on the bottom layer and layer it on down. Oh, and look who just arrived. It's the sun. Ukulele in hand, and barbecue sauce. 2 necessities of life. These are the Lenten roses that I planted about 2 years ago, and you know, they all bloomed and did really well this spring. And this thing is a single Lenten rose that I planted, probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it just does remarkably well. Even right here at the base of the tree where you wouldn't think it would get very much water. These little tiny plants here are some brand new Lenten roses that I have just stuck in here last week. And I bought a dozen of those, and or was it 15? Whatever. And we'll just see if they can get to be as big as that one that's been here for quite a while.